So in the previous video, we ranked all of Sung Jin-woo's best weapons. Now we have all of the Hunter's best weapons in this tier list right here, so let's get to it. So let's kick things off with an open hand, which is Hwang Dong-soo's exclusive weapon, and pretty much when it comes to these kinds of weapons, the best weapon for a certain specific hunter will most likely be their exclusive weapon, unless if it's just really, really bad. So Hwang Dong-soo's an open hand weapon basically increases his wind, or just the user's wind damage by 12%, and increases the user's basic skill damage by 3% when the impulsive revenge or madness effect activates, which will stack up to 15 times. So overall, you'll be able to get a 45% damage increase, which is pretty good. So in order to actually trigger these buffs, you need to either use Greed Scavenger, Steel Blow, or S-Rank Influence. So you've got a decent amount of skills to be able to use to activate these things. But you have to use them after being hit, and then it will apply the Impulse effect. And then when the Impulse effect reaches maximum stacks, which is 5 stacks, it will then apply Impulsive Revenge as well. So for the first ranking, I don't know how this weapon is actually going to compare to others, so I'm not going to rank it too high yet, but just know that the things can definitely be moved around, so I'm going to put it in the A tier for now. Next up, we have Min Byung-Gu's weapon, Eternal Slumber, and this weapon is really weird, because I don't understand, because even when it's at minimum or maximum, I just don't get it, because it says it just increases the user's HP by 0%, so I really hope that's a mistake, and that will be changed at some points, because I don't really understand the point of it being there. But I'm going to assume that it will actually eventually increase your HP stat, which will be really good for Min Byung-Gu. But what's also really good is when the user uses Heavenly Blessing, which is his actual ultimate right here, which will apply, some nice, really good crit buffs. It then says after using the skill, the user and the team member's damage dealt increases by 16% for 16 seconds, which is really, really good. So this weapon right here, I am going to assume that it's going to be something that will actually increase Min Byung-Gu's HP stat, although either way, I don't think it matters too much, but I think being able to give your whole party members damage increases as well, I think is really, really good. So S tier for that. Night Thoughts is Emma Lawrence's exclusive weapon, and this is a pretty good weapon, I think, considering she's a tank, so she's all about breaking and dealing damage with breaking. I think that's really, really good. But what she can do is she can increase damage dealt to targets that are affected by the break effect by 12%. Amazing, always great, so that'll combo really nicely with the break damage increase gear set as well. And then when Heat Absorption activates, which is basically this buff that increases the user's defense by 7% and then at 10 stacks you recover HP, 15 stacks you apply a shield, so whenever this is active, you'll be able to increase the user's damage by 1.5%, which will stack up to 15 times as well, which in total is going to be a 22.5% damage increase as well, which is fantastic, especially because I think Emma is a really, really high DPS character in terms of for being an actual tank, which I think is really, really good. So these damage increases are fantastic. So it's kind of hard not to want to put this weapon in the S tier, because the weapon does just do great things, great permanent damage increases. So yeah, I see this weapon being fantastic, so let's go S tier. On a different level is going to be Woo Jinchul's exclusive weapon, and this weapon is not going to be my favorite one, unfortunately, as the user attacks by ignoring 6% of the target's defense, which on a flat amount is quite a low amount. It's alright, it's nothing too fantastic, but especially when you do get this weapon, most of you are going to have it at 0 dupes. Only ignoring 2% of your user's of the target's defense is kind of useless. And when Mediation of Power is used, it'll increase your damage dealt to the target by 20% for 3 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. So essentially you're going to have to be spamming this basic skill a ton in order to get that off. It does have a low cooldown and can be used 2 times, but unfortunately it can't be used 3 times, so you're never ever going to realistically be able to get your 3 stacks of it, which is also kind of annoying. Unless if you get 1 dupe of him, which the effects of Mediation Power change to increase break effect by 100% and can be used 3 times, so you're going to need this 1 dupe to make this weapon really work, which for me doesn't make it my favorite thing in the world, so I'm going to put it B tier. Equivalent Exchange is the next weapon. This is Choi Jong-in's weapon, and I think this is a really good weapon because it's one of those weapons that can just be used on any character in general, because it does just give you a flat 18% attack increase. And then when attacking targets burned by Choi Jong-in, the target's defense decreases by 20% for 5 seconds. Fantastic. I think this weapon is really, really good. And the reason is because you'll just be able to apply this non-stop when using this on Choi, because obviously he's going to be burning a lot of characters and stuff, and when you run other characters on your team that can help burn as well, you'll just be able to have a ton of burn uptime, so then you can just have this defense decrease up for so long and almost permanently, which is fantastic. So for me, this is going to be another S tier weapon. Pretty simple. Lim Tae-gyu's exclusive exclusive weapon is called Intercept, and what this does, it will increase the user's dark damage by 12%, just like Dongsu's, very nice. And when Min Byung-Gu will use a basic attack within 10 seconds after using quick attack Typhoon Fire, it will increase his attack by 6% for 30 seconds, and it will stack up to 8 times. So essentially, whenever you use your ultimate skill, which is quick attack Typhoon Fire, you'll be able to transform into sniper mode, and then you'll be able to, funny enough, shoot 8 times to do damage, and then you'll be able to get all of those damage bonuses and increases from the weapon, which is fantastic. And then when you're able to get those increases, you can then use your shooter maneuver to get like your core attacks and stuff to do even more damage, and you can use Typhoon Fire as well, which does a huge amount of damage as well, to then just absolutely pop off with him. So this weapon, I think, is actually fantastic. So yet again, another weapon is going to go into the S tier. This weapon is actually really good. Lee Bora's exclusive weapon is called Solid Logic, and this will increase the user's attack by 10%, so another great weapon because it can be straight away used on practically any attack scaler and benefit from this, which is good. And then we have the targets hit by the user's strengthening charm have both the damage they take from critical hits and their chance of receiving critical hit damage increased by 10% for 10 seconds. So essentially, you basically get an increase of 10% in crit chance and crit damage, which is not a massive increase, especially for a weapon that's completely maxed out. There's nothing too crazy. So I think this is going to join Jinchul's weapon in the B tier. Baekhyunho's exclusive weapon is called Suppressed White Tiger Soul, and this will increase the user's light damage by 12%. Amazing, great. And then when attacking targets with the White Flames effect, which is basically a debuff that Baekhyunho will apply to the last hit of every skill, excluding basic attacks. So this will be his core attack, his and then all of his basic skills, and then his literally every skill but his basic attack will apply this effect, which is amazing. And then basically when the effect reaches 3 stacks, it activates Violent Explosion, dealing 400% of his defense and applying defense decrease to the target, which is actually really good. And the reason is this is good is because when you are attacking targets with that, you get to increase your own defense by 20% for 20 seconds, and this has a 30-second cooldown, so you only have to wait for a downtime of, I believe, like 10 seconds to do that, which is really good. And this defense increase will make that explosion, as well as all of his other skills, do a ton of damage as well. So this is going to give Baekhyunho a pretty substantial damage increase. So I think this weapon kind of falls on the same level as Dongsu's. Maybe it might be S tier, I'm not too sure, but I'm going to put it in the A tier for now. This weapon is actually really cool. Unparalleled Bravery is the final SSR weapon for COGWoo's exclusive weapon, and what this does is it will increase the user's critical hit damage by 20%. So again, this is already another weapon that can be used on a lot of different characters that are, well, obviously going to be like HP scalers that wants to do a lot of damage. And then when she uses Water Dragon Rush, Lightning Kick, Heavy Attack, Water Dragon Rush, or Heavy Attack, Lightning Kick, she'll be able to increase her crit damage by 6%, which can stack up to 20 times. So this is going to just shoot itself at the top of S tier. This is by far the best weapon I've seen. So yeah, this weapon is crazy good. Ancient Grimoire is the very first SR weapon of this list, and this basically, all it does is increases your power gauge acquisition rate by 12%. It's pretty good, pretty useful, especially for characters, as well, especially on hunters that have relatively lower-ish ultimate cooldowns. This is going to be good, and then you can increase that all the way up to 32%, which is also fantastic. So this weapon seems pretty good. I don't think it's anything too crazy. I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary, but I think it's going to go in the B tier for now. Steel Axe is the next one, and this will increase your core attack damage by 9%, and I don't think there's too many characters that are, or at least in terms of hunters, that are based around their actual core attacks, so this weapon's alright. It's nothing too amazing. So because there's not many, if any, hunters that are based around core attacks that are defense scalers, means I'm not really a huge fan of this weapon. So it's between C or D. I'll put it C for now. The Steel Dagger is next, and this weapon's just really nice. It'll be great for practically any attack scaler because it'll increase the basic attack damage by 6% and can go all the way up to 16% whilst giving you total power and also attack on the main stats, which is going to make this weapon a pretty decent weapon, to be honest. So this weapon is also going to go into the B tier. The Steel Bow is a fantastic weapon, as it's also great for attack scalers, but what's even better, it's also fantastic for characters that want steel crit damage, as it'll increase the user's crit damage by all the way up to 24%, which is fantastic at max dupes, which it makes this weapon, I believe, the highest amount of crit damage you can get from a weapon for a hunter anyways. So that makes, for me, this weapon, that makes it pretty valuable because it does something that is really, really good that a lot of other weapons don't do. And a lot of characters can always benefit from crit damage, so this is going to go into the A tier. Alright, so Steel Longsword is the next one. This increases weakness attribute damage by 4.5% and can go all the way up to 12%. Out of all of the attack scaling weapons so far, I think this one is by far the worst, as, I don't know, for me personally, I would just rather have something that just increases your crit damage, for example. So I am gonna put it in, ooh, C or D. I'm gonna put it in C. Alright, Steel Staff is up next, and basically whenever you use your QTE or Quick Time Event skill, your power gauge is then charged by 4.5% and can go all the way up to 12%. So again, this is going to be another great weapon for Min Byung-Gu as well as Jiwoo. So I think this weapon's pretty decent. Being able to get 12% of your ultimate gauge is nice, especially on a character like Min Byung-Gu, who doesn't really spend much time on the field. I think this is a fantastic way to start generating his ultimate charge as fast as possible. So I think this weapon's good. I'm going to put it in the B tier. And then we have the Steel Shield. This decreases damage taken from boss monsters from the 4.5% all the way up to 12%. Not really the biggest fan of this, because I don't really think there's many hunters that are just sort of centered around just taking a lot of damage. So for SR weapon quality, I'm going to put it in the D tier. On to the R-rarity of weapons, and we have Essence of Magic, and basically all these weapons are just worse versions of the SR version weapons, and that's pretty much it, as this just increases your power gauge acquisition rate by 4%, going up all the way to 24%. But that's not to say this weapon isn't bad at all, because it's only, what, like 8% less, because this one goes up to 32%, I believe. So something that's only 8% less, I don't think is too bad, so C tier. And then we have another shield, which is also just a worse version of the other steel shield that I just showed off previously, and this one is just by far way worse, so because you get much less damage reduction. So this is easiest E tier ever. And then we have the hatchet, which is just, again, the other worst version of the steel axe, whatever it was. Increase your core attack damage. 18% is an okay amount, and obviously you can get it very easily. So this is going to go straight into the D tier. And then the dagger is up next. This can give you all the way up to a 12% increase in your basic attack damage. So this is also probably going to go into the D tier, to be honest. And then we have the bow, which is the counterpart to the SR bow version, so you can get in a pretty easy free 18% crit damage, so fantastic weapon, decent, not too bad. So this is going to go also into the C tier. And then we have the sword, which gives weakness attribute damage from 1.5 all the way up to 9%. This weapon is terrible. I would never recommend using this weapon because, again, weakness attribute damage is cool and all, but it's just a bit too niche for me. So this is also going to go into the E tier. And then the very final weapon on this list is going to be the staff, which is just the other counterpart one again for using QT skills to gain your power gauge by 1.5%. That's how much it will be charged by. And this can be increased all the way up to 9%, which if you look at it, it's only actually 3% less than the actual SR one, which makes it not like a huge difference. The only massive difference you're going to see is going to be in the actual main stat total that you have. So I'm also gonna throw it into the C tier, I think. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful or useful, then don't forget to like and subscribe as it helps a ton, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!